running up the score.
Jerry Napoleonello.
This team has been on the clock for 4 months now. Why are we taking this down to the 4-minute mark? You know, you have 10 minutes here. 10 minutes here, but you've had 4 months. The dude's got 1,021 text messages as he hasn't read yet. Did we not notice that?
Kevin Donlin.
Bryce Harper's a great player. He's very, very talented. Aside from last year, but I blame myself. I'm pretty sure I'm the reason for that with fantasy baseball.
That's disgusting.
Wow.
I can't believe that's real. I mean, again, I'm not. I shouldn't hate. I'm not going to be the kind of person that hates.
No,
he is doing enough hating for the both of us.
As a Cowboys fan, the expectations are so high, and it's just, you're dug into the ground by the end of the season.
You're basically like what the Patriots are, but you try to do it, but you just don't.
No.
Yeah. At least the Jets, you know what I mean? They have excuses.
This is Running Up the Score, your one-stop spot for all things sports. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
We are back finally. It's been a while. Still social distancing, obviously, as you can see. And yet we're still dealing with this global pandemic, COVID-19. But something that we've been dying to say over the last 4 months or so, sports are back. And now the real question is, how long? But we're hoping it's for good. There's been a lot going on in the sports world, and it's time to dive right into it. Jerry Napoleonello, Kevin Donlin, here with you. First, go leave us a voicemail at 516-324-8725. We also put up some new show merchandise. You can go check that out at tpublic.com/RUTS Sports. And we're going to dive right into it. I mean, we might as well. But before we get to the sports aspect, obviously we've been away from the show for a little while now. We really haven't had a show since the whole Last Dance thing. So, obviously personal situations here, there's really, I've been still kind of quarantining, I guess you could say. I haven't been really working, because of this whole thing. So it's been, I'm thankful that sports are back, basically. It's something to watch now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's it's just it seems like fresh air that you're breathing in when you see the return of sports. And obviously we are right in the middle of it at this point. You got baseball back. I want to say in full swing, but minus one team right now. The struggles going on with the virus, it's just unfortunate, but you credit to all these organizations that are just trying to get the product back out there, because there are a lot of people that just they love sports, and sometimes you just need that entertainment, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people need. I mean, just in general, myself included.
So obviously, the team that you're talking about is the Marlins. The Marlins, they added, I think, 2 more guys to the list, so they're up to 19 players/coaches that have tested positive. And they're the only team that have any positive tests. They tested the rest of the league. Not one team has any other positive tests. So, obviously the team that played the Marlins during this whole thing was the Philadelphia Phillies. So they've had to sit out until at least tomorrow, Friday. Marlins had to sit out until Monday. Obviously, these guys have to test negative for them to even touch the field. So the fact that they're losing basically almost 3/4 of their lineup, their roster, you have to think if something like this happens again, I think you have to, because it's not just going to be secluded to one team. Because if this happens again, it's going to be a few teams that are dealing with this. And you know what? Right now, this is the only league that's traveling. The NHL and the NBA are doing, the whole bubble aspect. And we'll get into that when we get into their sports. But for right now, the Yankees had to change their schedule. The Orioles had to change their schedule. These teams are having to change their schedules because of the Marlins. And, the article that I was reading on the whole Marlins outbreak was that, they're out on the town the night before. they knew of the positive tests before playing that game and still decided to play that game, which I think was wrong in every aspect. And even Joe Girardi, the head coach or the manager of the Phillies, said if we knew about that, we wouldn't have played. So, I mean, that's maybe a punishment or so, you know?
I think in regards to that, if that's an easy fix, you know, you have to throw something into the, you know, in addition to the Players Association regarding what, you know, you like to call reckless COVID behavior. And, you know, I think it plays as an extreme clause in these contracts that if we're going to go out and, you know, to bars and, you know, party and, you know, all of a sudden you end up with COVID. I mean, it's a risk. You're risking yourself as well as the others around you. And, you know, you're a professional athlete at this point and you make a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, this is the way things are right now. You got to remember, you know, we really are, you know, in the early stages of experimenting what sports would be like with COVID-19 in effect. So, you know, everything is on the fly. And I think baseball's done a great job of on the fly work of, you know, pausing the season for certain teams and, you know, delaying some of the games that they, you know, had scheduled and then going forward. Again, you have these slates, you have these times, and you just got to be able to adjust with it on the fly. And I think baseball's done a great job in the early going, and they're going to have to continue to do a great job as the season continues if you want the season to continue. Yeah. So I credit to the to Major League Baseball. They've done a great job at just trying to do what they can to, you know, whether it's pause the season or whatever else needed to keep the season afloat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that, you know, they've been able to address this whole issue with the Marlins, yet still not really pause the whole season compared to, like, for all the other teams, and just have the teams that are kind of in the realm of playing the Marlins or have played the Marlins or, you know, whatever it is, you know, just a little tinker of, you know, one here, one there, you know, the Yankees and Orioles playing now. You know, I applaud them on that. Baseball, you know, the way that the stadiums are, and you know, first of all, I think they could have done a bubble thing. If being honest, I think they could have.
I think there's so many examples of how a bubble can be, you know, made, and you know, you do have a lot of college campuses out there.
I mean, just look in New York. Though New York, we have 2 Major League Baseball, you know, stadiums. We have, you know, Buffalo that has that AAA stadium that the Toronto Blue Jays wanted to play in. Then you know, you can even talk about maybe, you know, looking into Connecticut. You can look into, you know, New Jersey. Like, there's minor league baseball, fields all around this area. They could have did a bubble.
You know, I think there is a difference in baseball when it comes to major league level.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like it needs to be enclosed. It's not like there's a home field advantage or anything going on.
It's not anymore.
There are no fans there, so it doesn't change the concept. So why all 32 teams have their home arenas right now? I feel like it's an unnecessary an expense. Yeah. And unfortunately for these arenas and these stadiums right now, COVID-19 is really strictly affecting them. And you know, they're trying to do, again, like whatever it is to stay afloat. But I don't think it's smart on baseball's behalf because it's just too much travel.
Yeah.
And it's just, with the uncertainty of this virus, it's just not smart. And I think the NFL is trying to head the same way with the travel. And I feel like you'll see the effect big time, even all the way in September.
Yeah, well, October, you know, it's going to be more. Scary. It's going to be more interesting with the NFL because of, you know, how close. You know, obviously it's a contact sport, so you know these players are going to be so close to each other. You know, when you're talking about baseball, it's not really that much. You know, the closeness is basically with your own team. You know, and that's for all of these. You know, these leagues. You know, obviously you're in a bubble closest to these. You know, to your own team. So that's the, you know, the purpose of it. But you know, when it comes to football, like, you're on top of each other all game long.
It'll be an interesting concept, but there's, again, a lot of uncertainty from now in the beginning of football. So it's really just very hard to make a judgment call on it. And I guess as we go along, we're just going to have to adjust. And just the way baseball is right now.
That's the key word.
Well, the good news is that if you look at the NBA and the NHL, they've been practicing together for a while, and there are no reported cases throughout either league. So that's it's promising.
That's definitely
that could be the way to go about it, and we'll just see where everything heads to as the season continue, because neither season started yet. I think the NBA starts tonight.
Yeah, the NBA starts tonight. The NHL
starts on Saturday.
Saturday
or Friday, right? Saturday's the first string.
I think
games,
Saturday's
August
the first.
1st.
Yeah. So when talking about baseball, obviously we're about, I think the Yankees are 3 games in. I think the rest of the league is about 5 games in. It really, I think the play on the field has been good. And I think some players are benefiting from not having fans, obviously. I think Giancarlo Stanton is one of them. But when we're talking about this baseball season, everybody was waiting for this baseball season basically because of everything that happened in the offseason, everything that happened with the Astros. This was a very, anticipated season because of seeing what happens with the Astros and seeing what's going to happen with the rest of the league treating the Astros. Mm-hmm. And we got right off the bat, we have the Dodgers and the Astros go at it, and the Dodgers obviously fell victim to this whole cheating scandal with the Astros. So, right off the bat, I think, in the first game of the season, 3 Astros were hit. I think it was like Correa, Bregman, and I think it's funny. Then you have the whole thing with Joe Kelly. Now, Joe Kelly is known to be one of those guys, a John Rocker type of, guy. Like that's who you're looking at when you're talking about, Joe Kelly. And Joe Kelly, in that game against the Astros, he really didn't have his fastball. He could not, find his fastball over the strike zone at all, and just decided to start throwing at guys. And threw at Correa's head, also threw at Bregman's head, and then struck out Correa, blew him some kisses. But I think the most interesting thing, and I think Manfred is really starting to get on everybody's nerves, I guess, the fact that Joe Kelly, all he has to do is go out through one game of this suspension, this 8-game suspension, and he's been suspended more games than any which one of those Astros that have cheated. So, and not to mention, an 8-game suspension in a 60-game season is compared to a 22-game suspension in a 162-game season. So, I mean, I think it was a little harsh on he didn't even hit anybody. That was the biggest thing. But
when it comes to the whole idea of this guy getting suspended, it's amusing. It's probably the best way to put it. Manfred has really put himself in a situation where he's just, the crimes aren't fitting the punishments.
Exactly.
And you can cheat to the World Series, reaping all the benefits of that, which is very serious in many regards, and not a single game of suspension for any of these players. Yet you don't even hit someone with a pitch, and you're getting 8 games. As if, like you said, he had lost control of his fastball. Obviously, the interactions after, it's just the heat of the game. It's competition. It's always been like this. Like you said before, John Rocker was a big example of it. And John Rocker was probably 10 times worse than anything Joe Kelly has done.
He really
and
was.
John Rocker played an entire career.
Yeah.
So, I don't understand the concept of what Manfred did there. I think he thinks it's going to put an end to it. And Joe Kelly will not be the first person, or the last person, I should say, to attempt to hit a Houston Astro this season. And there's just no stopping it. What the Astros did was absolutely a disrespect to the game. And honestly, between you and me, I do not think they were the only team. And that might be their defense to this.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
that
obviously there was a video.
That's why, again, and you've known this, we've done this show for a very long time. The respect for the game continues to go down and down with the nonsense that continues to happen in this league. I mean, first you had the steroids, and now you have this nonsense.
Yeah.
This is cheating. The guys in the 50s, 60s, they didn't do things like this, or to the extent, I would say. It wasn't even possible. You look at all these crazy numbers and all these records now. There's like 4 different home run records.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. I'm still waiting for someone to hit 57 home runs legitimately.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for. I saw Aaron Judge throw up 50.
Yeah.
It was rookie year. So is it a possibility? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
I would love to see it happen legally.
And I think it would be really Alonso.
Fun. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year with the 60-game season, but that's the kind of stuff that fans want to see to this day still.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with everything that's gone on, if anybody hit bats over 300 now or 350, people will be asking questions, because that's exactly what the Astros did. They had an entire lineup batting 300. And you were wondering why. Like, wow, that's impressive. And then I realized this nonsense comes out, and again, it's just another step of the ladder of just losing respect for the game.
Did you?
And you want it to be changed.
Did you see the game last night? I think I'm trying to think who the Astros were playing, but Altuve strikes out looking on, like, I think it was more of like a slider, maybe a curveball, whatever it was. It was an off-speed pitch, and Oral Hershiser was the color analyst on the game, and the play-by-play guy was like, "Oh wow, he must have been guessing, a different pitch," and Oral Hershiser goes, "I guess it's easier to know than to guess." So, it's
the truth.
That's the thing, and like you're seeing it more
with
part
of the game.
You're seeing it more with Altuve, which Altuve, before this whole thing came out, everybody was like, "Wow, this guy is an unbelievable hitter." It's like, he never strikes out.
Little.
Never strikes out, nothing. And
now he's very little.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, like that plays a big impact. You got a bunch of guys in this league that are really like. Look at Judge, and you put Altuve next to him, you'd be like, "Whoa!"
Well, it's funny.
He's a very effective player.
Because
very effective, very fast.
Astro fans will try to like throw the Yankees under the bus as many times as they can, because they're trying to put blame on other teams as well. So like, there's been a video that's been going around of a Yankee intern sitting in center field recording the catcher's signs.
But there was stuff even before this.
But where they said that the MLB has already gone through this twice with the Yankees with that same video, and they said there's nothing bad involved with this whole thing, but they keep bringing up the same video. And then you had I think it was the first game or the second game where Stanton hit a bomb with
and they showed Judge. This is exactly what I'm trying to say.
But that's legal. Like that's that's something that's been around forever. I mean, we've been able to do that even in high school baseball. If you're on second base and the catcher and the pitcher know that, if there's a guy on second base, we might have to change up our signs. And that's part of the game. That's strategy.
Of course. No,
so the way
I saw that right on opening night.
Yeah.
And again, another aspect where I'm just like, people are just trying to find concerns with these games, and
it's people that don't know baseball.
It's becoming more of a outside the game approach,
absolutely,
as opposed to what's happening on the field, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. So, going on to we'll go on to the NFL now, and the big news. Obviously, there's I think we're starting camp up and stuff like that, and we're talking about the NFL season. We had the NFL top 100 players, that list given out. We'll go over that a little bit, but the biggest thing going on in the NFL is the opt-outs. You're having all these players, voluntarily opt out of the season. Now, there hasn't been huge names that have, it's been guys that maybe have been on the bubble of, making the team, not making the team, whatever it is. The Patriots obviously have the most players that have opted out, which is a little, we know how Bill Belichick runs his team. But, you have players like you're starting to have bigger names, I guess you could say, like Nate Solder, the offensive lineman from the Giants. He's opted out. Unspecified why he did it. I think he actually came out with a letter saying why and this and that. But Marquise Goodwin, obviously everybody knows about Marquise Goodwin. Played the game like the day after he lost, a baby, and just had one. Therefore, he put out a video saying, I'm not putting my family at risk again. I think he's lost 2 babies so far, with him and his wife. So Marquise Goodwin, like that's the stuff that you got to look at, these players, and you can't get mad at this. You can't. As a fan, you cannot get mad at this.
I honestly, it's not relevant to me because it's not my business.
Exactly.
And I think that's like the biggest thing that like a lot of like media outlets forget is that, people are entitled to their own business. And, I'm not here to question why anybody doesn't want to play. It's not a concern of mine.
Yeah.
I understand. No matter what, you do not need to explain yourself. That's the problem with the new public image. You feel like you have the need to, explain yourself.
Yeah.
And you really don't.
Oh, I know.
Unfortunately, like that's still a world that we live in where that's your own private concerns. Yeah. And I'm not one to sit there and hear them and then judge them, which is what happens on like ESPN outlets and stuff like that. It's not a concern of mine, sir. You're entitled, and you get people that are bothered by this. I mean, I don't waste my effort being bothered by something that really isn't relevant to me at all. I'm a Jet fan. If any Jets want to opt out of the season, that's fine.
It's
with me.
understandable.
I understand.
Yeah,
I absolutely understand. And again, it's me just as a fan, just hoping that the coaching staff can adjust.
Yeah.
And find a way. That's how this works. And obviously they're giving up a lot of money by opting out of these contracts.
Yeah, and
they
that's
still
the thing.
make some decent money, but at the same time, like you're opting out of a lot more money. That's your own decision. Like they're all adults. So
I think the most,
I'm not one to judge it.
The most impressive.
Have an understanding as to why or why not it's acceptable for them to opt out. Don't care.
Absolutely. I think the most impressive, I guess, opt out was the Kansas City Chiefs offensive lineman Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, because he has a PhD, and he's been fighting, as a nurse and a doctor at in the hospitals during this whole thing. So the fact that he's opting out so he can do more, is just it's impressive. Like that's something that
I
can't.
think that's an amazing choice, and it's really appreciative. And I bet you the people in his hometown, are very appreciative.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you understand why they would do something like that. Respect it. I mean, and then it just goes from there. Who's the next man up?
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Now I want to see like kind of how you feel. Obviously, as I said, there's really not huge players that have opted out. Like you're looking at guys like Damian Williams, Nate Solder, Patrick Chung, guys like that. Like, yeah, they're well-known players and they're very good players, but they're not that star player.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if a star player actually opts out? Because I could like we were talking about this before we even went on the air, and basically I said I feel like one star player, all he has to do is opt out, and I think that's going to open the floodgates for other stars. Like, all right, well, if this guy can opt out, then I know I can. If a Russell Wilson type player.
And I think the NFL, to continue to keep a product on the field, knows it'll be saving a lot of money on these contracts. Therefore, other players can come in.
Yeah.
And that's how it's going to work. There's always going to be a next man up in the game of football. It's a very limited league.
So you feel that the season won't be canceled if a top player ends up opting out?
I can't predict it. I don't know anything about it. Again, it comes back down to the virus and how it's going to react.
Nobody knows, really. No,
So
and I don't even
really
think the professionals know.
It's a guess.
Yeah.
This is just
absolutely.
I wouldn't even say it's a logical guess because I'm unfortunately, not enough is known about the virus.
Yeah.
Whether a vaccine will be created, anything like that. So there's a lot of variables. And personally, if a star wants to, opt out, they are more than welcome to. And if it means a floodgate of stars start opting out, then that's their own decision.
So
again, adult.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're allowed to make that decision. I'm not even going to make a base or a ranking or a judgment on it because there's always going to be another man that wants to, that will take the risk.
Yeah.
Almost.
I mean, there are a
lot of people out there taking the risk right now, doctors and nurses. So it's like you understand that it's just really just your choice at this point. And if they want to give off, they're not even going to make the money. So it's understandable.
So, like with Kansas City, losing Damian Williams this season, they just drafted a running back. They drafted the guy out of LSU, Hilaire. He's got a longer name, but
it just shows the kind of comfortability.
But that's something
like Damian Williams would have. Because Damian Williams can understand that I'll skip the season, and if I need to go try out for a new team
and that's the thing, like they're
on an organization, then they're going to work hard and try to do their best to.
These guys are putting their position at risk. Their position on these teams, like Devin Funchess. This is supposed to be his first year with the Packers. So this is, you're playing, you're still, it doesn't matter if you're a well-known player, you're still playing for a spot. So, defensive tackle Michael Pierce, these players are, these are the higher risk opt-outs, like Minnesota Vikings defensive tackle Michael Pierce, the Patriots offensive lineman Marcus Cannon, and the Washington football team defensive end Caleb Brantley. I still it's sickening to me. I'm not even gonna say it's sickening to me. It's just the fact that we have to say Washington football team is a joke.
I think it's gonna be really funny to watch the New York Giants take on the Washington Redskins because you're gonna hear an announcer go, "All right," and the New York Football Giants take on the Washington football team. And I'm gonna really question whether or not I really live in 2020 or not, if people just aren't realizing what's going on. Like, I want to hear an announcer say it. I'll probably record it.
Yeah.
It'll be really funny.
It really is actually going to be funny because even their
just
uniforms.
Come up with a decision. There are people out there getting paid a lot of money. Just make a decision.
Well, you know what ended up happening? Someone, obviously, I guess when they started talking about trying to change this team's name for the last 3 years or whatever, someone went out and trademarked every single team name that they could have come up with, which in a way is smart because what? Now you're gonna have this team say, "All right, well, how much can we pay you to give us this name?" And
Absolutely. It's not the right time to do it right now because during COVID-19, the Washington Redskins can't spend $25 million
exactly. And listen,
to get the name off to somebody because they don't even know if they're gonna make this money.
Dan Snyder did not want to change this team name at all. He was forced, obviously. FedEx wanted their name off of the stadium. Nike stopped putting their merchandise out, which in a way, they're at Nike's mercy because there's only one team in the NFL that actually holds the rights to their team, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. Just because Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones, he's that business guy. That's why you'll never see, no matter where you go, whatever store it is, you'll never see a Dallas Cowboys merchandise go on sale unless the Cowboys put it on sale. So, there's been multiple times that I've gone into like Modell's or, Dick's Sporting Goods and, the Giants and the Jets are on sale and then they have a Cowboy sweatshirt that's still $50-something.
You would think it would lead to like wins.
It was a good joke, but
I kept a straight face for as long as I could.
But like that's the thing. Like, so they're at the mercy of Nike. So Nike was like, all right, you know what? We're not going to put your stuff out. FedEx is like, we want our name off of the stadium. We want our money back. Like stuff like that. So Dan Snyder was forced, and now it's at that point where like stuff like this that happens. When it comes to team names and logos and uniforms and stuff like this takes over a year to do. So the fact that they're like, actually going to go into this season with a blank jersey, just the colors, a blank helmet, and everybody saying, all right, it's the Dallas Cowboys facing the Washington football team. Like, it's
weird.
It's
There's a lot of
2020,
weird
basically.
things going on right now. Obviously with the virus, again, it's just it's a different time.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, it's basically we're going to be able to, years down the line, when something's going bad, it's just going to be like, all right, well, this just pulled a 2020. Like, that's just, it's just going to come down to that, because that is the type of year that we're in, compared to, just everything that's going on. Like, it's not just the one thing. It's not just COVID-19, which is just out of this world, what's going on. But it's not just that. It's just everything else. And it's crazy. It's the year that we're in is just absolutely insane. So we had a trade in the NFL. Jamal Adams traded to the Seattle Seahawks, and I was impressed of what the Jets got, through this, because the Dallas Cowboys were looking into him, and they were willing to only give up 1 first-round pick, and they got 2 first-round picks in this. The Jets acquired 2021 and the 2022 first-round picks, 2021 third-round pick, and safety Bradley McDougald, and only gave up Jamal Adams and a 2022 fourth-round pick. Listen, Jamal Adams is a very, very good player. Don't get me wrong. Very, very good player. Very good safety. He reminds me, because they were actually showing, they call it like a heat meter or whatever, and they showed like Cam Chancellor compared to Jamal Adams, and it was like basically the same. They like to play around the line of scrimmage. They like to, stop the run. That's the kind of player that they are. Coverage, but you deal with that because he's, that good in run, in the run coverage and everything like that. So, you know what? The Jets got rid of somebody that was, just, I wouldn't say a cancer to have, but was just annoying, I guess you could say, and they got a lot in return. And I applaud the Jets for what they did.
Yeah, I think Joe Douglas did a great job with this trade. I mean, honestly, it came down to it. This guy did not want to be here anymore. And it's unfortunate because, he's a great player, and, the fans loved him, and, some fans still do. There's no doubt about it. But unfortunately, with the things that were, being said, and, especially when it came to the coach and everything else, you couldn't repair this. And unfortunately, for the Jets, I thought this would have been disastrous in the ability to trade him. But it actually worked out really well. The Jets got a lot more than, me as a Jet fan were expecting.
I think anybody was expecting.
Yeah. And basically you're impressed by what Joe Douglas was able to do with a disgruntled player. Get him out of here. Like you said, he's being more of a burden than he is being beneficial to the team right now. And they get 2 first-rounders. I mean, I've never really been a fan of any of these 2 first-round draft, trades. I'm very I'm mystified by every time a team does it. I'm glad to be on the receiving end of it. I don't think the New York Jets were ready to win right then and there. But I do know that we'll see how Sam develops. I feel like the offensive line needed some work. We got that work done.
Yeah.
Defense might need some work, but we got to take a look. We had a lot of injuries last year. We did finish the season 6-2. I'm excited to watch football with the New York Jets, despite the fact that no Jamal Adams, and great player. Best of luck to him in Seattle. But I hope they don't win a lot.
Yeah, well, he soured his stay with the Jets, especially at the trade deadline, because he supposedly called up a bunch of Cowboy players and was telling them to get, the Cowboys brass to step up and make a trade. So right there, after they found that out.
Yeah, I know. And now it makes it difficult to trade a player. And I feel like they were somehow able to, take care of that, which was
pretty well too.
Quite imperative. Yeah, absolutely.
And before we get off of the NFL, I wanted to just touch on the top 100. the final 5 came out last night, and Lamar Jackson was number 1. Obviously, you were kind of expecting that. He was the MVP. He had a great season.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, we're also talking about Patrick Mahomes here. Like, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he's very good. I mean, he's the number 1 player in football.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, again, I don't even really look into these rankings too often. I just want to watch the games. I'll be honest. I mean,
that's what I'm at, because
I want to just see who wins it all. I don't care who the top. Because one, I'm not going to see any New York Jets on that.
Yeah.
A team that finished 6-2 last year, and a lot of injuries. It's just it really is. Needle in a haystack type feel on the top 100 players. You really don't know who's better than the next. These are different positions. It doesn't make sense to me.
To me, I never really put any kind of, belief in this list. Like, it never really did anything to me. This is done by the players, which is odd to me.
Yeah.
But you have Russell Wilson, who's also ahead of Patrick Mahomes, which is also, head scratching.
Yep.
Aaron Donald was number 3, which, yes, you have to put him up there. But Michael Thomas over DeAndre Hopkins, I thought was a little questionable.
See, Michael Thomas had a great year.
He did have a great year.
DeAndre Hopkins, but then people talk about the quarterback. There's just so much that goes into this that it's just hard to rank them. And then all you're causing is ESPN to lose its frenzy with the debates that they'll have left and right about this. But the truth be told is, you're never going to see Michael Thomas take on DeAndre Hopkins one-on-one in the game of football. It's just who could be more productive for their team. And
a lot has to do with the team.
Beneficial to a win or not.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the same thing that goes with the Madden ratings, which I was a little skeptical on because I think Michael Thomas shouldn't get a 99, and if he does get a 99, which he did, you have to give DeAndre Hopkins a 99. I obviously Patrick Mahomes being a 99, that's fine. I question Christian McCaffrey being a 99, which that you're saying Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the league. And
he's arguably one of the best.
He's arguably one of the best. Do I think he is the best?
Yeah, you're just giving people reasons to write stories. That's really
I guess
what it is at that point.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, just because
as
like
a
I
Jet
said,
fan, I think the best running back in football is Le'Veon Bell, and I mean that's just coming as a fan standpoint.
Yeah.
You're not going to see him anywhere in those rankings, which is that's
just
how
having
it is.
Like Zeke is 24.
And you can put an argument for every single running back drafted, not drafted, but every single running back that was ranked.
Yeah. Like you have Dalvin Cook.
I have the best running back on my team. It isn't even a question of whether or not who's better than the next. Because again, these guys are never going to play each other one up.
No.
It comes off the, how effective can your team be?
Yeah. So now moving on, because I don't want to put much more into this whole top 100 because it just gets me aggravated. But we'll move on to the NBA because the NBA is starting up tonight. They're calling them seeding games, so it's 8 games, and there is a possible play-in game. The first round of the playoffs begins August 17th. So you have these possible play-in games due to if the 8 and 9 seed are within 4 games or less of each other, then they have play-in games. Then then we go into the first round of these. Obviously after the 8 games, you go into and it only took 22 teams. They only took 22 teams. They didn't take every team. Some teams, just like players didn't want to play. Like Damian Lillard was like, if my team is not in the running, I don't want to play. Like that. That's and players felt like that, sense. And yeah, absolutely. So, they made it 22 teams, of all like the closeness of the playoffs, So it's the NBA. What they're doing, the bubble. Like we said earlier, the bubble has been a great idea for these leagues. I think it's awesome what they've done with the arena as well. I was watching a game, I think it was a Lakers game, and they actually had on the video board people basically like what we're doing right now, video recording from their webcam, just watching the game, and actually they had them in like seats.
Their reactions, I think
and it's
amazing.
cool. Like that was cool. If the player shot a 3-pointer and got it in, they show the video board and like people are like cheering, and I think
the audio as well to go with it.
Exactly.
I think it's a great idea. Both leagues, NBA and NHL, they're both doing the bubble.
Yep.
Like we said earlier in the show, neither one of the team, nobody on any of these teams tested positive for COVID recently.
For both leagues.
It's just exactly, and I'm hoping that it works. People need basketball and hockey back. There's really not, let the games happen, and then we'll talk about it next week and see what happens with these games and how effective this is, and hopefully we're having a similar conversation where minimal amount of players or no players at all, even better, test positive for COVID-19 after 1 week of play, and just let the season go. And it's the entertainment that a lot of people in this world need right now.
Absolutely. And going on to the NHL, as we said, there's been no positive tests over the last week. Each team gets one exhibition game between the days of the 28th, which was 2 days ago, and today. And then the qualifying round robins, the qualifiers and the round robins start August 1st. The first round of the playoffs starts August 11th. So the qualifiers are a best of 5. We have Calgary against Winnipeg. We have Chicago against Edmonton. We have Florida against the Islanders. We have Rangers against the Hurricanes. Montreal versus Pittsburgh. Then you have the round robins for the top 4 teams in the league in both conferences. So you have round robins for seeding for those first through 1 through 4.
I got you.
So it's interesting what the NHL has done. The NHL, they wanted to go right into the playoffs, and I applaud them for what they're doing. I think the whole setup is nice. I agree with it. I think the fact that they went with 24 teams was great. The NBA
just to expand it, and there'll be more games, and they're all going to be in a bubble together. I like both ideas.
Yeah,
I mean, I have no problem on any aspect of what both leagues are doing right now. I think hopefully it works. I mean, that's really only time will tell. We can play the guessing game all day.
Absolutely.
But, let's see how it works out. Let's get a week of games in, and hopefully everything pans out well, and the Islanders get a win.
I mean, the NHL, as I said off the air to you, I think the NHL has done the best when it comes to the look of it. I mean, basically,
I even think the NBA did a great job.
I think they did a great job
with
as well.
The clause of, like I said, with the the reckless COVID behavior clause.
Yeah, I mean, you saw
how
with
these
Lou
players
Williams
are going to be held accountable and go without pay for 10 days or
and
so,
have to be on
quarantine.
Yep.
Because you got to just stay within the elements, and
you have
whole Disney World to work with. So
you have.
I'm pretty sure you should be okay.
You have Lou Williams go out to a strip club. So obviously he's put on quarantine.
That was so funny. Barstool put up something about the wings there, and apparently the wings are that good. And I thought that was really funny. He said he went there for food.
Yeah.
And, sometimes if a place is really good, because even other people on television said, I've played, I've eaten down there. Yeah. Those wings are amazing.
Yeah.
So it's really fun. It's really amusing.
But then you have
I actually, again, it's just a rude awakening for NBA players at this point to, understand the, circumstances of what we're involved with, and
exactly,
they're going to be very strict with you regarding what you can and cannot do as far as while you're playing basketball or hockey.
Absolutely.
In the NBA or the NHL.
Yeah, and you even had Zion Williamson, who had to quarantine himself, but he was doing it for family reasons because he had to, take something up with his family or whatever it was, so he had to leave the bubble. You're put on a quarantine. Yeah. And you test negative for it, you go back to the team, and that's what happens. And Lou Williams was a little reckless with what he did. He's put on the quarantine. It's
someone else
it's
pick
done.
Up the wings for you or something.
But I mean, like I said,
at the same time, you want to live in this world. You know
exactly.
what I mean? I understand the standpoint of everything going on, but you have to understand that, if I'm feeling some good wings, then that's exactly what I'm going to roll with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there. People calling it reckless behavior. Unfortunately, again, it's just it almost is beneficial for both leagues to get an understanding of what's to occur if you do just the slightest of things. Because going to a strip club for wings doesn't seem like the most dramatical thing. It's not like you went to a nightclub.
No, well, you got to think like
packed beach or anything like that. Like there's a lot of, you know,
you're just putting everybody else at risk. You know,
of course,
and that's
he did absolutely.
That's where it comes down to.
I understand the reckless on that standpoint, but at the same time, you know, again,
you want to live your life.
He probably wasn't the only player to do something along the lines of that. So
you want to live your life. I mean, they're even saying that like you know, if a player wasn't wearing a mask around the bubble, like, you know, that people were able to rat on them or whatever.
It's understand. Again, it's going to be a very strict environment. I mean, I work at the courthouse. It's a very strict environment there with everything going on. I mean, this is just the way of the world right now. And unfortunately, this is, you know, there's no predictions to be made because it's very unpredictable at the standpoint right now in every aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, nobody knows. Nobody knows, like, what... I mean, even the professionals hardly even know. Something changes every single day when it comes to this, you know, this virus. But, you know, I thought it was cool with what the NHL did. Each player in their rooms had... the NHL actually put out, like, pictures of their families on the, awesome. You know, as they walked into their room in the hotel.
Make this as comfortable as possible.
Exactly. And you know what?
Like, you know, you could tell anybody. I mean, not just professional athletes, but you tell anybody at this point, do whatever needs to be done to keep yourself in a comfortable state.
Exactly.
At this, you know, because right now, you know, it's not just these NBA players and these NHL players being affected by this. Everyone is. So
everybody.
You know, that's why it's just such an unpredictable situation. It's great to have sports back.
Absolutely.
For the standpoint that now people can have entertainment that's much needed at times, you know, just to have that comfortability back. Yeah. That's part of it.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot more that goes with just the, you know, the health of these players. I mean, yeah, you want these guys all to stay healthy. Absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah.
For many reasons, you know, for their own sake and for the sake of other people out there just trying to, you know, get sports back and just get some, you know, entertainment back in their lives. Because, you know,
it's just
need to
nice.
Have fun here.
It's just nice to be able
to have fun. Like that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, like our first show, like since this whole thing happened, we said, you know, the sucky thing about this whole situation was that, you know, it was such a big thing that happened. It was such a, you know, such a bad thing that happened that usually, you know, everything that happens in that way, like you always have sports to fall back on, and unfortunately, with this whole thing, nobody had sports to fall back on. So it was also like, you know, there's nothing to watch on TV. There's, you know, nothing to talk about in sports and stuff like that. So, you know, the fact that we're even able to, whether it's good, bad, nothing really to talk about, but, you know, it's just sports. You know, the games are being played. They mean something, you know, and I just, you know, I was excited to watch hockey. I ended up watching the Flyers and Penguins game just to see how the play was.
But then I definitely watched the hockey game last night. It was
really, I mean, I watched
fun.
that
I like
too.
what they did with the arena.
Yep.
Again, you know, time will tell with these leagues.
Yeah. So, but you know, that's basically it for today. We'll be back next week doing you know, hopefully we'll be talking about some of the qualifying games, you know, some of the NBA games, MLB. Like, we'll have all three sports going on at the same time, and we'll definitely have stuff to talk about. You know, because breaking news just came over saying that Citizens Bank Park is shutting down for the time being for the Phillies because 2 staffers came down and tested positive. So we'll see what happens in that aspect. You know, maybe the Phillies are going to have to play all their road games, you know, for the first couple of weeks, you know, and we'll see.
We'll just see how they adjust.
It's all adjusting. You know, it's all adjusting.
Exactly. And again, so far the MLB has done a great job. But again, the problems aren't going to end just, you know.
No, not at all. You got
to just find ways to get around it. And
exactly.
I have faith that the MLB will be able to do it.
Exactly. But that will do it for the show. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Be breezy.
Be breezy.
And it is all over! You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on Sports Radio. For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.